Freedomizer Radio, where freedomizers freedomize freedom.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lily Gonzalez. Welcome to Tigerlily's Freedom Roar on Freedomizer Radio. This is my first attempt to capture a radio show on YouTube, and I appreciate any and all feedback. Please refer to the links that I've provided in the YouTube description that expands on some of the issues that I covered on this particular show. Again, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you will catch my radio show on Fridays from 11 a.m. until noon Pacific time. Until then, have a great one. So, my husband is my co-host, and he's trying to help me out here, and I really appreciate that. I wanted to, thank you for sticking with Freedomizer Radio. That was a great show you had, and a great flutist you had on, Cheryl, See the Power. And she let us meet people just on the street, and then she interviews them on the radio because, you know, she's got these strong vibrations that attract people, like-minded people, over to her, and she's so open and curious and stuff, and that's what makes her one of a kind. That's for sure. I had a great show last week. I felt I started talking about this 3-year-old little kid who got caught peeing in the front of his yard, and a cop who had nothing better to do fined the mother $2,500 for that. And I didn't get a chance. I got a really cool caller. He had a little bit of an accent, and I think he said his descent was Egyptian. He had some really, really cool insights. He was out there in New York City somewhere, where he was very adversely affected by the Sandy thing. Y'all let me know if you can hear me okay, because, let's see. Tessa Dick says there's an echo. Let me take this off. Do you still hear an echo? Maybe I hope you don't. I went on ahead and took off the earphone part. So anywho, if you want to call into the show, the number is area code 347-324-3704. So hopefully you guys are still on with me. Let me see. All right. Because I was hearing a little bit, not an echo, but more like a bzzz. This technical equipment is just going to be the death of me. I'm telling you. So, anyways, last week I talked about this 3-year-old kid, but I wanted to follow up on that because I posted that on zerogov.com. Now, the founder of that forum, that website, is a man by the name of Bill Burt. He's one of the heroes of my life. He is the very first person who I actually heard say in public that not defending the police, because, you know, every now and again you hear something where a cop did something bad, and people say, oh no, it's not the police, it's the policies, you know, they're just following the laws, yada 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 yada. Well, he got up and he must have some big kahunas, because he, in front of all of these constitutional oath-keeping people, it was at an oath keepers meeting, he said, I've been sitting here listening to all of you speakers saying that it's not the police, it's the policies. I'm here to say, bullshit, it's the police. And I'm like, whoa, and my husband nudges me and he says, you're going to want to get in contact with him. Anyhow, I did, and we've been really kind of good friends in the sense that he made me a moderator on his police forum. There's a police section of his forum if you go to zerogov.com, and I get to moderate that thing. And I like to post, you know, my radio show there. And I posted the article about the little kid that was peeing, and he was basically getting potty trained and everything. And one of the members there, who goes by the name of Mama Liberty, says that found on a LouRockwell.com article that the mayor of the city of Piedmont, because this happened in the city of Piedmont, Oklahoma, this is what she said. First, allow me to say that the city of Piedmont does not, all caps, condone the actions of this officer. Normally, I would support our police force, but this time I have to quote Forrest Gump. Stupid is as stupid does. I, along with the police chief and city manager, have requested that the DA's office not proceed with the prosecution of this ticket, and the DA has agreed. Case closed. There is no defense I can provide for the officer. His actions indicated not only a poor sense of judgment, but no judgment at all. The whole situation was ludicrous and an embarrassment to the city. I can only assure individuals that the city of Piedmont is not taking this incident lightly and does not tolerate such behavior from our officers. That was a really cool thing that the mayor said. I have a couple of issues with it because she says that normally she agrees with the police officers and everything, but what I would love to know what actually did happen with this police officer. And that's number one. Number two, the only reason, in my opinion, that this even made any news was because of the blogosphere, because of internet. And if it hadn't been for copblock.org, and that's how Misconduct Everywhere, I think it's called. I subscribe to a number of police abuse bloggers, and I got this. It was like a special memorandum. Check this out. Some mom got a $2,500 ticket. Well, what happens is that most of the time these occurrences, and much more grave issues than this, happen, and it's at the hands of the police that we, the sheeple, are violated and caged, maimed, even executed. And these cops are given a pass. And so I was very delighted to know that in this case there were repercussions. But the only reason I submit to everybody is because the mom contacted her local news reporter, and the local news reporter put that on television locally. But these kind of stories never, ever make mainstream media. No, they're just little stories. I mean, even the Jose Guerrero case, if you all have been following some of the work that I've done, and I was off for about 4 months, but Jose Guerrero was a young man who came home after serving 2 Iraq wars. He lived in Tucson, Arizona, and over some marijuana and a botched raid, the SWAT came in and killed him. I mean, he's a gun owner, and he just got trained. I mean, he just came back from Iraq, so his natural instinct is going to be to defend his castle. So he reached for his AR-15, I think it was, or AK-47, or whatever gun he had, and because he reached for it, it still had the security on it. He was executed by the SWAT team, and the wife was in a closet hiding with one of her kids. The other child was in school, and this didn't even make mainstream media, other than maybe I think Alex Jones covered it. But I never heard that it got on like main Fox or any of that. And even if it did, it would have been just like a little afterthought kind of a thing. So mainstream media does not want to report what the truth is, but we have absolutely no excuse to blame mainstream media, because we have alternative information. We have Freedomizer Radio, who we go out there and we seek the truth and we report the truth, and when we make a mistake, we come back and we say, you know what, at least in my case, if I know that I make a mistake, I am going to admit to it. So Mama Liberty, thank you for sharing that. And another gal by the name of Pistol Packing Mama replied to that 3-year-old boy gets the fine. She said, I just love the response the chief had about the officer going to the mother and encouraging her to control her kid. Evidently now need to police families and ensure we are controlling our children. Gah! As an unschooling Montessori mom, I'm completely outraged and simultaneously befuddled by this philosophy. Yeah. So she quoted what was said. I think that was from the Huffington Post. No, the PiedmontDaily.com. She quoted, based on the information I have in my experience, I don't think it was I don't think how it was charged meant what occurred. You have a 3-year-old who can't commit a crime. You have a 15-year-old who may have helped the child do what he was doing, and the citation is to the mother that may or may not have been in control of the child at the time. There are just a lot of things that could have been done differently with something like that. So I thanked those two ladies for their comments on that. And as a lot of you know, I am a big fan of Stef Molyneux. He is the biggest philosopher name on the web. He has his website is freedomainradio.com, and I listen to his stuff as often as I can. He's got over 1,000 uploads just on his YouTube alone. If you go to youtube.com/Stefbot, STEFBOT, you can see all of his stuff, and I try to keep up with that. So Mama Liberty went on and said, you know, the nanny state exists because far too many people think they have some right or mandate to dictate life to others, especially about their children. A woman took her little boy, about 5 years old, into the women's restroom at Walmart the last time I was there. Another lady complained to me after they were gone that it was really, quote unquote, wrong to bring a boy into a woman's bathroom. I just asked how she figured that was any of her business. Then she really took a look at me, shut her mouth, and left the room. I like to think my words caused her to rethink her ideas, but I suspect it was noticing my sidearm that chased her away. Sad. So that was Mama Liberty, and I guess she's like me, a packer. She's probably, I don't know, she must be living in one of those states that allows you to open carry. I'm not sure. Those are some really great comments. And I think that got me to think of something. Stef Molyneux's he wrote a really, really awesome book. It was a little bit dry in some places just because I'm not very literate like people like Stef, who has a master's degree, or not a PhD, but a master's degree in philosophy, and people like Bill Burt, the founder of ZeroGov, they're very literate and historically savvy and everything. But I do agree with Stefan's premise and his entire philosophy really being broken down to two things. It has nothing to do with religion. It's more secular than anything, and it is it is never okay to initiate aggression, and respect for property rights. If you follow those two basic fundamental rules for humanity, the world would be a much better place in which to live. Now, if this is the first time you've ever heard that, I'm sure, like me, the first time I ever heard that is like, well, how will the roads get paved, and how will the criminals get jailed, and yada yada. Well, it really goes back to what are we doing to our children, even in utero, when you're pregnant. If you're depressed or sad or have some kind of a crisis, your fight or flight mechanism, the chemistry, goes into the bloodstream, through the placenta, and it already provides for the birthing of a child that already has a heightened sense of fight or flight. And when I was a nurse for 10 years. I did a lot of baby deliveries where they called me baby catcher. What they would do is a labor and delivery nurse would assist the doctor to catch the baby, and then they'd grab him, give him to me, and then I would assess the baby and everything. And it was just amazing, really astounding to me that every baby had its own little personality. And some of them, we behind the scenes, we nurses would call them, the diva girl, or we have little pet names that were not really, just for us, because they all had their own little personalities. And you had a baby that would just screech over nothing, and then you had babies that were just so low maintenance. I was there when my own grandson was born, and he was so low maintenance. He was, it's like, he must have had, I'm happy to know that my daughter had a very good pregnancy. The man that she married was very good to her, and she had virtually zero drama during the entire time that she was pregnant. And now she is raising her child in a way that I certainly didn't raise my children. I regret to inform everybody that I was raised Southern Baptist, and I believed that it was okay to spank a child. I thought that it was really God's will that children have to obey their parents. And what nonsense is that? After studying Stef Molyneux' philosophy, I realized that that is just absolutely ludicrous. And I'm going to get the holy rollers just all riled up, I'm sure, on the chat. And sometimes when people are talking about, oh, you know, Jesus this and God that and Allah here and all of that, and you know, then I said something very irreverent, you know, because it just kind of gets on my nerves. I said something about Jesus having bad breath and BL, and somebody said you should show some respect, blah blah blah. Well, you know, where did I hear that before? It was a cop told me to show some respect, you know, and I like what Stef Molyneux said one time, because he addressed this. Somebody wrote him a letter and said, you know, you're not very respectful of the Judeo-Christian people. And he says, you know, because he's a full-blown flaming atheist. I'm not that far atheist-ish. I'm somewhere between agnostic and atheist. And every day I think I've moved closer to atheism. But he, as an atheist, says that for him to respect Christianity or that belief system or anybody who subscribes to that indoctrination would be like a black person respecting a member of the KKK. Because the KKK advocates the murder, at least the lynching, not even the murder, of black people. Whereas in the Bible, over and over and over, you can hear God telling, or people proclaiming that God says that you are to kill the infidel. If somebody doesn't believe, it is your responsibility as a God-fearing person to eliminate that person, to murder that person. So why on earth should a person of non-belief have any respect whatsoever? So anyways, those sorts of thoughts get me to think about the way that we're raising our children. And I think that is the fundamental problem to the world as we know it today. It's that we do not believe that we are capable of taking care of ourselves. We don't believe it. We don't believe it because that's why we subscribe to government. That's why, you know, we have, you know, and whether you're a religious believer or not, whether you're a nanny-crat or a conservative or on the left or on the right, it's a plantation. We are all living in a plantation, and we need to remove the indoctrination from society. So I was a little, I don't know if the word is, maybe just a tad disappointed, because I want to, 4 months ago when I was doing, you know, I had 3 shows on Freedomizer Radio before I just totally burned myself out. And it wasn't the radio shows that burned me out. It was more just the stuff, just the overwhelming stuff that I was seeing around me, the control, the lack of liberty. And it's like Stefan said one time that there was a fish, he feels like a fish that comes up to another fish and he says, hey, how do you like living in this water? And the fish is like, water? What water? Because that's all he knows. Well, that's all that we know in America, in this geographical space that we call America. That's all that we know is government, that we need them. Do we really need them? You know, Stef Molyneux says, and I keep saying him because I don't want to steal his ideas and I don't want to plagiarize him, but his stuff makes so much sense. He says everything he ever learned that he needed to know in life, he learned at 3 or in kindergarten. Because people ask him, because everybody wants to put labels on people. Are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Are you, you know, what ethnicity are you? Where were you born? As if that makes any difference. You're a human being. And he says everything he ever needed to know, he learned in kindergarten. Don't push, don't shove, don't take don't steal, don't steal their lunch money, the kids' lunch money. But isn't that, so that's what we learn. But as parents, how is it that we teach our children that? I know not that I can recall any specific incident, but I do recall inflicting violence on my children. And that's like, a parent, you've got maybe 3 or 4 kids running around. I only have 2, thank goodness. But I could just see my son maybe smacking my daughter and me smacking my son, telling him, you don't hit your sister. Now, that's kind of ridiculous. You hit somebody to teach them not to hit somebody else. That's absolutely asinine. So, how is it that we can have a sense of virtue? We call virtuous, we define virtue as not inflicting aggression. It's not okay to steal. It's not okay to kill. It's not okay. But it is okay if you're labeled government. How is that okay? All of a sudden you put on a badge and you wear a gun and it's okay to lie. You've heard that saying, it's not okay for, it's against the law to lie to a cop, but cops can lie to you. Well, no, they can't. They can't. They will, and I have plenty of proof that they have lied. A number of them have lied to me because every time I come in contact with a bureaucrat or a police officer, I've got my video recorder. I've bluffed my way out of some very scary situations. I have actually spent 24 hours in jail because I was videotaping my son getting arrested at a traffic stop. I refused to turn off my recorder. I was 30 feet away. I was convicted for obstruction. I appealed and got found not guilty, but that was the one time that I was not at a scene of a so-called crime. My son was stopped for tinted windows, some crime, right? That was the one time that I was not there as an activist. I was there as a concerned mother. So I disarmed myself. The one time I disarmed myself, and that was the one time I ended up spending 24 hours in a holding tank, robbed of all of my freedom, caged like an animal in my country that I thought, oh, hey, I served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, and everybody's like patting me on the back, thank you for your service. Screw that. And everybody, I just saw a report that I don't know what the percentage is, but there is a big percentage. As a matter of fact, the first person who was killed, the first Marine that was killed due to 9/11, was not even a U.S. citizen. He was a Guatemalan. And how many people are not even U.S. citizens that are fighting for our country? Are they really fighting for us? Or are they just slaughtering innocent people abroad? And here we are, outraged that our ambassador was killed and 3 other Americans were killed. How many people are we killing out there? What business do we have out there with as much energy as our own country has? We're EPA. Oh my God, I'm getting all stutter struck. But anyways, I want to go back to the child rearing. We need to reevaluate how we are schooling our children. I have just finished reading the best book that I have ever read in my life when it comes to making a case for not sending your children to school, public school. Public schools are indoctrination camps. Public schools are being taught by, yes, there's a few good teachers, but even the teachers have to go by their curriculum. There are things that they have to teach children that the children are supposed to regurgitate. And right now it costs what? Tens of thousands of dollars to educate one kid, to get him through the 12 years of the camp. We need to we need to reevaluate that. This is not natural. Sending our kids to a bus that incidentally looks exactly like a prison bus, except it's yellow and not white or black or whatever color these prison systems are using to bus their inmates. We're sending them to indoctrination camps where they're getting diseases, where they're being shot, and then they're like, oh my God, there's a killer out there. One of the students just shot all these. Well, we're drugging our children because, oh my gosh, well, I need to settle down. By the way, I'm taking the WOW pills, you guys. Cheryl turned me on to these WOW pills, and they are completely natural. They've got magnesium and all sorts of stuff. They're supposed to give me more energy, so I'm really excited about that. I do have more energy. The one thing that it's really, really helping me with, you guys, is it's helping me with my arthritis. I haven't had to have any ibuprofen or Tylenol. This is day 2, and I'm on day 3 of the WOW pills. You take them once every 12 hours. You go to seethepower.com or .org. If Cheryl, if you're listening there, put a link to your pill site, because those are some wonderful supplements. And every day I feel more energized and better. I mean, for crying out loud, I actually put makeup on today. So, anywho, I wanted to let me go to commercial break, and when I come back, I'm gonna do the feature story, which is going to be about, remember that judge that was caught beating his child? Well, Stef Molyneux, I found that he has a little, what's it called? He did a YouTube on it, and it's only 3 minutes, and I downloaded what he had to say about that, and it really hit home to me. So you're listening to Tigerlily on Freedomizer Radio. This is Tigerlily's Freedom Roar, and I'll be back in about a couple of minutes as I do when I come back from the commercial break. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm back. This is Tigerlily. This is Tigerlily's Freedom Roar on Freedomizer Radio. Today is November the 16th. It's the top of the hour. It's the bottom of the hour. It's 11:35 Pacific time. I happen to be living in Mountain Time, so it is 12:35 or in my neck of the woods. And I've been talking about, that's my thing. My spiel is the state. The statist society. I am a zero government kind of a person. I don't believe in the government. I do believe in humanity. I think that we as human beings are smart enough to take care of ourselves and our communities. We do not need Big Brother to be imposing into every single aspect of our lives. I think that is ludicrous. And I think it's time to evolve past that. I think that our humanity has a great deal of potential, but key is going to be initiating or implementing two main rules for humanity: respect for property rights and the non-initiation of aggression or of force. And I'm a big advocate of Stef Molyneux. I probably will say his name a lot because I go literally almost every night. I go to bed listening to something that he's, some of his books or something, so that I can be listening and deprogram myself. Because I'm going to be 52 in a couple of months, and that's a lot of years to be programmed into believing in the stars and the stripes and yay. But really, just because I was born here, that makes me a better human than if I would have been born on the other side of the border. I mean, how ridiculous is that? I mean, if I would have been born in the Middle East, I'd be praising Allah, but I was born in the United States, in East Chicago, to a mother who was Southern Baptist, whose father started the First Baptist Mission in Mexico. And my father was a wetback in the 50s, and he married my mother, and got himself a job in the steel mills in Indiana. And that's where I and my brothers were born. So just by accident, I'm born in the United States of America. And the reason I joined the Marine Corps back in 1979 was not because of some virtuous, the more people patted me on the back and said, yeah, thank you for your service, the more I started really believing it. But now I think, what a crock. Thank you for your service. I joined the Marine Corps, ironically, to get out from under my father's thumb. I mean, I wasn't allowed to go anywhere except to church, school, and home. That was it. I had no boyfriends. I still had my cherry, for God's sakes. And I got the hell out of home because I wanted to see the world. Because I knew my destiny was going to be barefoot pregnant in the kitchen. That was my destiny if I didn't get the hell out. Fortunately, I did have a mother that was enlightened enough, even though in retrospect I see now how horribly she was abused by my father. Abused in the sense that, you know, he was an alcoholic and everything, but my mother somehow, she used to refer to my father as mi castigo, my punishment. So she believed that God punished her because she married my father, who was not a born-again Christian. And she married him against my grandparents' wishes. She was one of 13 children. She was the last one. She was 26 when she got married. But the expectation back in those days is that last one out is a rotten egg, and you end up having to take care of your parents, and you never get married. But my father seduced her. In fact, my father was quite the handsome gent. I'll never forget when I was 14 years old. I'm sidetracking a little bit. Sorry about my bunny trail, honey. But when I was 14 years old, I went to a Catholic high school, Catholic middle school. And I brought this black friend over to my house. And my father was a very racist. I mean, he always used the N-word. I mean, in Spanish. It would be an M-word in Spanish. And he spoke very badly of black people. Actually, he spoke badly of white people, too. And I was scared to death what he was going to say because this, you know, my friend was black, and she came over, and my father was so respectful to her. It blew my mind. And he was very gracious, and, you know, and I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. So it's just, you know, in private, you know his thoughts, what his thought process is. But in public, it was like he wasn't going to admit to it. You know, that was kind of interesting. Then I had this other girlfriend who came over, and she was, my father claims she's Jewish because her last name was Kaufman. He says, I think she's Jewish. And I didn't know anything about Jews or anything, or historically or anything, but I remember when my Jewish friend, Catherine Kaufman, saw my father, she goes, oh! And I says, oh my gosh, what? Does he have a booger on his face or what? And she says, oh, he looks just like Clark Gable. And it's so funny because I went to her house a few times and she had all these pictures. She was in love with Clark Gable and Burt, not Burt Lancaster, the other one. The guy who married the big boobed lady, what's her name? His name, Burt Reynolds. Yeah, she had that naked picture of him, you know, where his hand was, that was hysterical. But anyway, that gives you an insight as to how my mother probably got seduced by this good-looking man. But he was a smoker and he was a drinker, and I went to church, and every day I prayed that my daddy wouldn't go to hell because he was a smoker and he was a drinker. So, you know, it's just, you get all screwed up, you know, when you get all of this indoctrination when you're a kid. But anyhow, let me find my little clip here that I wanted to share with you guys, because here's I noticed this, I picked up on this because I was watching CNN, Anderson Cooper. I just flip through the channels. I go through the RT news. That's the alternative news where you see what's going on in Gaza, and they have real radical, you know, like different news as opposed to your mainstream CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and all of those. So, he said, he had this cliffhanger, and he said, remember that judge that got caught on tape spanking or beating his child? Well, there's an update about that story, and I'll have that when you come back. So I'm like, oh, shoot, now I got to kind of hurry up and remember to come back to see what happens there. So it was his last few minutes of his show, and it was that chick with the little English accent, that real pretty dark chick. That she says she highlighted the 6, you know, here's like 6 highlights of the day. And she mentioned that judge got reinstated. He was suspended for a year, I believe. But you should know that he got his $150,000 while he was suspended. So, I remember thinking, how outrageous. This judge is a domestic violence judge. He sees cases every day. He's probably put people in prison for beating their children. And here he had been brutalizing his own daughter, you know. And, you know, and when I saw that, I thought, well, you know, that's not much different from what I used to see my mother do to my brother. I had one little brother. I have 2 brothers. They're both younger than I am. My one little brother, I remember her tying him to a chair in the basement and getting a branch from the tree and just trying to whip, literally, the devil out of him. Because I remember he was just a real hyperactive kid, and one time he was standing on the table, on the kitchen table, and my mom in Spanish, she only spoke Spanish to us, because she only spoke Spanish, in Indiana, and she told him, Javier, get down from there. If you don't get down from there, the devil is going to get you. And I remember my brother bending down, picking up some toothpicks, and he's still dancing around, which is a sin to dance if you're Southern Baptist. He's dancing around. He says, I will poke the devil in the eyes with this toothpicks. And my mother grabbed him, and she tied him up, took him to the basement, and just whipped the living daylights out of him. And I remember being upstairs, holding my ears, like singing la la la, because I just couldn't bear to hear the screams of my brother as my mother was beating him. And not too long ago, I was visiting my other brother. We were talking about the violence of children and how lucky his children are that they didn't really get beaten by their mother. Their mother was beaten brutally, and yet she didn't brutalize her children. I mean, you know, she might have pinched them once or twice. I mean, we're progressing as a species. I mean, I see that the chain is breaking where there is education and where there is some self-evaluation. But my brother told me, he says, I will never forget, Lilium, that's what he calls me, I'll never forget the time that Dad just beat you. And I said, yeah, and I do remember, I had kind of suppressed that, but when he told me about it, I do remember we had company. We had a porch out in the front that was attached to the house. This was in Gary, Indiana, was bouncing a ball. And my father came out and told me one time, stop bouncing the ball. And then he said, because, like he was rationalizing with me, because you're going to break something. And so I remember saying something like, oh, I won't break anything. I'll be careful, puppy. Don't worry. So he left. So when the company left, he took me, he lifted me up, he threw me against the wall. I landed on the bed, and he proceeded to spank me with his hand on my butt, just spanked the crap out of me. And my brother says that he can remember my mother watching him, and she did nothing. She did nothing. And that brings me to this thought. In one of Stef Molyneux's interviews, he interviews a lot of people who do some really great work with psychology and child psychology and stuff like that. And this one lady wrote a book about corporal punishment. And she either read or she interviewed or something. Billy Graham's mother was quoted as having said that Billy Graham's father used to discipline him. You know, spare the rod, spoil the child, discipline him. And she remembers feeling virtuous because every instinct in her body wanted to say, stop beating my child. But she felt virtuous that she was able to overcome that natural human instinct, motherly instinct, in the name of God. That pisses me off, ladies and gentlemen. Let me have you hear what Stef had to say. It's only 3 minutes. What he had to say about that judge. And he posted that about a year ago. So it's just 3 minutes, and here you go.
It's hard to understand why people are reacting so strongly to the recent video showing a judge beating his daughter. Over 90% of parents punish their kids by inflicting physical pain. So I'm not sure why everyone is pretending to be so shocked. Is it because the girl in the video is a teenager? 85% of adolescents have been physically punished by their parents, and the video example is far less violent than most of the examples that have been shared with me. Is it because a belt is used? 30% of parents openly admit to hitting their kids with a belt, a stick, or some other hard object. Imagine how many more do not openly admit it. Is it because the man is angry? More than half of parents admit to hitting their children out of frustration and anger. Is it the hypocrisy? The judge recently claimed that he apologized for losing his temper, so no harm was done. Did he accept apologies from the accused in his courtroom? Naturally, the outrage is focused on the judge. The girl's mother, who supports and inflames her husband, hits her daughter as well and demands that she lie down and take it like a woman, is barely mentioned. I can't help but think that the shocked reaction of the general public is just a little bit precious. It's like the pompous posturing of a veteran politician who claims to be shocked about a congressman's corruption, or the infamous Captain Reynolds in Casablanca. He closes down Rick's cafe, and Rick says, "How can you close me up? On what grounds?" And he says, "I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on here." And a croupier hands him his winnings, and he says, "Oh, thank you very much. Everybody, out at once." Most parents hit their kids, and when the kids are much younger and more vulnerable than the poor girl in this video. So why is everyone so shocked? Are they pretending that such practices are somehow outside the norm? Statistically, when something is practiced by 90% of the population, claiming to be shocked by it is ridiculous. I mean, 90% of Italians are Catholic. Can any Italian claim to be shocked when he runs into one? Just about everyone knows someone who hits their kids. How many people have stood up for these poor, beleaguered children? Have you? How many people have talked to parents about these civilized and civilizing alternatives to hitting defenseless little children? Have you? If you're not exposing and opposing child abuse, you're an accomplice. I want to say to those who are outraged, please, don't pretend to be shocked by the commonplace. You look ridiculous and guilty.
Freedomizer Radio, where freedomizers freedomize freedom.